Time now for an in-depth look at the market news on this Monday, and for that I'm joined on the line by Dr. Jun-sok, professor of economics at the Catholic University of Korea. Professor Yang, thank you for making time today.
Happy to be here.
Well, stocks on Wall Street ended higher on Friday on expectations that consumption will improve down the road. Korean stocks higher today, too. What's the story in the stock markets?
Okay, well, Kospi was, as you mentioned, up today 0.51%. But for the last week, it was going up and down. It was basically in a holding pattern. Kosdaq, it's doing very well. It's recovered to almost the pre-coronavirus February levels. It's doing even better than Nasdaq. And I think that shows how Korean economy seems to be turning around, though the problems that we may have with exports hasn't really hit the stock markets yet. Now, the United States, last week, overall, it was very bad for the week, even though there was slight recovery at the end of the week. It's probably because the Fed Chairman Powell reminded the market that the effect from coronavirus is likely to be long-lasting, probably up to 2021. Now, this actually should have been old news. People have been saying this for quite a while, but I guess it does show that people in the stock market tend to get too optimistic at times. The Asian market was today up slightly because of optimistic statement by Fed Chairman Powell on Sunday that the rebound will be relatively quick and Fed still has tools they can use. So I guess we can expect the U.S. market to go up somewhat today. Now, Japan, they found last week that the first quarter was for them a recession, so they were downward for the week. China and the UK and Europe, they were similar with the United States. They were more or less in the holding pattern.
In the meantime, it seems the U.S. and China are heading into another trade war, and the first one did a lot of damage to Korea's exports. Now, with the Trump administration looking to cut off Huawei from its chip suppliers, what kind of effect is that going to have on the Korean economy?
Okay, well, specifically, the United States will require that American and non-American companies which use U.S.-made software or equipment to produce semiconductors must get licenses if they want to export semiconductors to Huawei. The United States has also warned that it is not likely to grant those licenses. So the move is expected to reduce the number of smartphones and electronics produced by Huawei. Korean firms are not expected to be covered by President Trump's order because, well, we produce memory chips and we do not use as much U.S.-made equipment and U.S. software as the companies which make so-called system semiconductors or non-memory chips, but Korean firms may be hit indirectly because, well, if Huawei makes less smartphones or less equipment, then Korean firms will export less memory chips that goes into those smartphones and equipment. Though some analysts are saying that Samsung may gain from the President Trump's order because it opens up perhaps some markets for Samsung smartphones and Samsung equipment for 5G. But I tend to have a bit of a doubt about that. Huawei's market share has been going down for the last couple of years, mostly because of President Trump's pressure on Huawei. And in order for Samsung to really take advantage of Huawei's reduction in production for smartphones, Samsung has to crack the Chinese market, but it seems doubtful that China will start buying Samsung phones because, well, a lot of their purchases of smartphones have to do with low prices as well as patriotism, and Samsung, I don't think, has the right tools or the right smartphones to crack into that market.
Well, in the next few days, South Korean high school seniors will be going back to class. We'll also have economic statistics coming out on Korean households. Tell us a bit about what's coming up this week.
Okay, well, the household debt is obviously the most important because how badly the Koreans are in debt, household is in debt, will determine how strong the comeback in consumption will be as Korea moves out of social distancing. But also another very interesting material will be KDI's economic forecast for the first half of the year. Now, it is expected that they will also announce what their prediction will be for economic growth in 2020 and 2021. If you'll remember, KDI as well as the government said that this year's growth rate will be 2.1%. I don't think anybody believes that anymore. Right now, the betting is that the government will settle on a target of positive growth rate, but in the 0% range. We'll have to see whether KDI agrees with that assessment. So far, the economic growth rate projections by international investment banks for Korea for 2020 has ranged from minus 6.5 to plus 0.5%. So we'll have to see where KDI will place itself on that range. And then for foreign statistics, I guess the most important statistics will be U.S. and European purchasing managers indices, because that will give indication on how much, at what capacity factories in the United States and Europe will be running, and that'll give us indication on how badly the coronavirus has affected production in U.S. and Europe, as well as whether they're seeing any positive signs, because some of the U.S. states and some of the European countries are going off shutdown and lockdown.
Indeed. We'll be watching for those numbers. Professor Young, thank you so much for coming on and sharing your insights today.
Thank you.